Hey there, toy collector friends and Transformers fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Triple TC, that's the time travelling toy collector, and this is the third instalment in my Haslab journey, in particular with the first Haslab that I ever purchased, which was the Victory Saber set. And here we have all of the key players out of the box now. Keen-eyed viewers may notice that the last instalment was in fact a year ago, and I said it'll be very shortly, we'll have them out of the box and all of that stuff, and we'll be taking a closer look. A year has passed. A lot's been happening with one thing and another. And I also realised, particularly as I've also got Deathsaurus, who still has not been taken out of the box. And this is the first time these have all had an airing out of the box as well, just so you know. I realised, especially when I was doing the last video, when I'm getting the names all muddled up, etc., etc., I know so little, or I knew so little about the Transformers Victory range, that I was embarrassing myself, frankly, even trying to talk about them. So I thought, you know what, I have to take time out from looking at this. I was really glad that I purchased it. It was a bit of an impulse buy, but I'd seen the success and the beauty of, in many respects, of the Haslab Unicron, and didn't really, I suppose it was a bit FOMO, didn't want to miss out. But, and they're beautiful figures. The toys we get here are undeniably absolutely gorgeous. So there's no, on my behalf, there's absolutely no doubt that it was the right, that it was the right thing to do to get these figures. But of course, it's another thing entirely when you don't actually know all that much about them. So I then set myself the task to watch the entirety of Transformers Victory, which I've duly done. And I do feel so much more informed. I also have questions that I'm hoping some of you may be able to answer. Indeed, many of you may be able to answer. And I'll get to those shortly. But I wanted to sort of get back to this, not least because it's another Victory Haslab that's currently in the works. It's Leo Kaiser, the Decepticon Combiner team. And so that's in the works now. I don't know whether or not you've backed that. Do let me know if you think that was a smart move and you've now backed it. Additionally, I've got Deathsaurus to crack on with, and hopefully at some point in the near future, Omega Prime will be arriving in its various component parts. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I wanted to crack on with the Victory Saber set. So we've got Star Saber, we've got Fire and Holi from the rescue team, and we've got Victory Leo. Look at me knowing the names. And what I was really fascinated by was a bit of the, if you like, the mythology and the mythos behind the whole thing. So I'm going to sort of almost do it in reverse size order to an extent. I'm going to come to, obviously, the wonderful Victory Saber first. I'll get them nice and close. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit more. It's a bit of a challenge because they're all quite hefty figures here in their own right. Well, most of them are in their own right, quite hefty figures. So here we have here we have Star Saber. And he has a wonderful head sculpt there. I have one of those with a very loose antenna here. That's quite frustrating. I don't mind admitting it. But if I set the other one at the same level, then I can kind of make it look like it's supposed to be that way. Now, obviously, he has some head articulation there, and we can move slightly either side due to the nature of the beast within. More on that in a moment. But he has a really beautiful physical design. I think that needs to be straightened out. There we go. I'm lucky. There's only a very little bit of scuffing there on the gold paint there well, I think it's gold paint, but I know it's problematic. Vac metal gold maybe. But it still works. It still works okay. And I just love the surface detailing on this. First of all, let's just go to the surface detailing. Is really lovely. I know there's some gaps. But he does what he has to do. But I think as a design, this really is Very, very nice. Very, very nice indeed. I've already positioned him with demonstrating his waist rotation. He's got a fantastic, I'm going to move his arm out. He's got some fantastically, you can hear there, ratcheted legs. So the level of support and posability, so I'm shaking him there a bit. Let me pull out slightly so you get a sense of, so you can see he doesn't give. There's not a lot of easy give with this figure. And so he can do all of the sort of standard expected articulation. And he just has something about him that is wonderfully chunky. And although I know, I think it's the 90s, I think is the, so I mean, I watched it, but I didn't check the dates. I think it's the 90s. Victory was the 90s, late 90s, maybe it was the noughties. But there's something about this design and the chunkiness of it that sort of, to me, gives me sort of 80s vibes, and is very sort of 80s in its playability feel. Now, as I'm saying that, I'm beginning to think, well, maybe actually it was in the 80s that we got Victory Saber, Transformers Victory. God, I'll get there in the end. But I just want to sort of take you around this figure first, because I just think it is such a lovely, lovely figure. And considering I didn't know anything about the series, I'm really glad that I picked it up. I'm really glad that I picked it up. I'm just going to adjust slightly once more. Then we're going to go down here, and we're going to go to, here we go, Victory Leo. Now, Victory Leo, again, is a curious figure. I'm super glad it was included in the set. But as you can see, lots of nice detailing. The split Autobot insignia there on his crutch, that's tasteful. Gatling guns on your hips, just because why wouldn't you? A really nice, just zoom in a little bit there, really nice head sculpt. Very nice head sculpt. There are some stickers for the wings. I'm not going to apply them, I'm going to leave them as is. These were separate attachments. I've put them on, these guns, and I'll talk about those again in a minute. There's a bit of stuff on the side here, but overall we're not seeing an awful lot of gappage. And I'll be honest, yes, there are some waffles here, and I know some people have said in the past they would have really liked to have seen these filled in, and I get that, I do understand that, but to be honest, you're probably going to mostly have them displayed over the shoulder, because they come over the shoulder like this, as cannons. And when they are over the shoulder like that, you're not really looking at the underside. And also, these are alien guns. These are extraterrestrial super robot weapons. So actually, this design may be the most economic in the dispersal of energon into laser emission, facilitating the most effective weapon system that he can have. So there, put that in your pipe and smoke it. They are adjustable as well, so you can go in multiple directions. And again, I really, really like it. I think there's a degree of playability here that is great. Tons of people would have already have said this, so I don't want to sort of just have a rehash of what other people have said. We have sort of articulation that you would expect to see, is pretty much all I can say, with the exception of a waist rotation, but that is perfectly understandable considering that in the scheme of things, he is going to get bisected somewhere down the line. So there is going to be, you know, a need for him to not be particularly well rotating in the waist. And we also have these two little darlings here, who are both cute and annoying in equal measure. Let me try and zoom in a bit because that might be easier. So here we have Holi, who is the leader of the sort of rescue bots, rescue force, whatever they're called, and super cute. I know that he's this is a repaint of a previously released mini bot, but nevertheless, I do think it looks really good. And the face sculpt there, you've got a visor, you've got a silver face plate, you've got detailing on the chest. You know, it is quite a nice little figure. And we also have, I'm going to stay where we are in terms of focus for now. They are a little fractious at wanting to stand up, let's say. I might lean him against Victory Leo. No, he's gone. And here we have Fire, Autobot Fire, who again has a really nice face sculpt, considering, I mean, I know it's a Haslab, so it's high premium cost, but by the same token, it's still a very, very small figure. So the fact we've got that lovely helmet and silver face and what I think are red eyes in there. We've got the nice chest detailing. We've got some nice detail on the legs. The arms are, of course, what they are, but we have got painted fists in there. Of course, the back is the back. We know what we're getting with these because they have to perform very specific functions. Let me pop these back over here. Please stand up. They are, as I say, they are quite fractious. They do like to test my patience, and that also includes the first time I had a look at them, I took them out, I managed to launch one of their legs in the air. Was it one of their legs or their arms decided to come flying off? I can't remember which one it was. And I thought, well, that bodes well for when I get around to transforming them. But I think I recall that being a bit of a theme with these particular bots. We've also got the accessories out of the box. So I've got the lovely shield accessory here. I've got the V-lock cannon here with its variety of positions and different alternative ways of being connected to various different figures. As I say, I've not actually done anything with these yet, so you're seeing them in my hands more or less for the first time. Nicely cast gun here, as you can see there. There's some nice details on the gun. This is the adapter / handle for the reverse of the shield, and we also have the ubiquitous sword for Victory Saber, Star Saber if you like, which also doubles as the nose cone. So now this is where I get to ask you a question. I'm going to take them figure by figure, apart from the two mini bots who I'll do together with another figure. But this is obviously the combined form of the Autobot Supreme Commander and his V-lock jet, and this is what he transformed. When they merge, this is what they merge into. This figure here, and I get that. I understand that. So in a second, I'm going to clear the decks for some of these guys, and we're just going to look at Saber and the V-lock jet, which is what we get from here. But I am also then going to ask you a question, and this is the question. I know that within Saber there is the Brain of Courage, and the Brain of Courage, it seems, is the head, face, whatever, of Saber, who is the Supreme Commander of the Autobots. And without the Brain of Courage, he doesn't seem to have a face or a head. So my question is the Brain of Courage Saber, or is it like we had with Headmasters and Powermasters? Is it some sort of associated roboform, life form, that they are symbiotic? Because I never really got a sense of that from the cartoon. I thought I might, and I never really got a sense of how it worked. They just sort of Brainmaster zapped into the head, and then we had Saber, and then Saber would transform and they'd merge and blah blah blah. So what I'd like to know from you in the comments is, what is the mythology and the mechanism for the brain master, the brains of courage. The brain masters. So brain of courage. How does that work? What is the relationship between the brain master? Am I calling him the right thing? Brain master, brain of courage. Anyway, the brain of courage and Saber. Because Saber very clearly can't be Saber without the brain of courage, because he's completely headless. So how does that work? Anyway, while you're pondering that, please like the video. Please drop a subscription to the channel. It's going to really help me get to my next milestone, which would be absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to clear the decks, separate out Saber, and have a look at the V-Lock jet in its natural state. Don't go away. And as if by magic, Transformers magic, here we are with our first wave of Saber transformations. So we'll do the easy ones first. So we now have Holi all transformed up. Let's see if we can just get him in focus there. So there's Holi transformed up. Actually, not too bad. I mean, there's this little robot head. I forgot to mention, actually, that he does have head articulation along with the silly little ball joint elements. But the head also is articulated, which is quite nice. So there's his little police car mode, which is nice. We've got them over there in the background. And here's Fire, all transformed up into fire truck mode with a very, very long ladder thing. And again, you can see the body's pretty much all under there. It's just arms and legs closing in around the main shape. Before we go into the flight modes, and I think I'm going to do the flight modes in the next video, just so that not everything is rammed into one. I've got Saber here, and we're going to look at and talk about Saber in a second. But it would be remiss of me to not just take a quick peek at this mode, and this is the base mode. I'm pausing for dramatic effect and to hear the various gasps, etc. from anyone watching. Now I'm going to endeavour to move it. Yeah, what a surprise! Now you all know about this. This is I'm sure you do. This is where the shield section is supposed to tab into the tabs here, and it is a total work of fiction. There was a little part of me that thought actually maybe mine will work and I'll be super impressed, but that isn't the case at all. There's nothing one can do to make these hold. It is just completely and utterly non-viable. So you just end up sort of having it lean there. So that's all a bit disappointing, really. In fact, I'm almost more inclined to sort of close this a bit more and just have it, have it sit like that, if you've got to have it that way at all. And also it's a little bit too high for this to shoot over the top of, so I've had to sort of adjust that as well. Unless I lift that a bit further and bring these down a bit more, that might work. But yeah, so I always try and find a positive with base modes. I'm struggling with this one a little bit. I think it's an interesting look, but I don't think it affords me an awful lot of play value. So for example, from a size point of view, I think it scales slightly better with the likes of Holi and Fire, but I don't know where they go. For example, it doesn't give me any sort of car access for them, so I don't really know what I would do with them with this. And I think that's the problem. I think if we had some way of getting some different levels with the legs or something, or even if this was worked slightly differently, so this can maybe stand at the back, and then this compartment here could have been something else. There just would have been a little, or this could have worked as a ramp that would have taken us to, do you know what I mean? Just something a little bit more thought through, rather than, oh, we've got a great big cavity in the chest where we've taken Saber out. Now let's cover it up with the shield, because we can't do much else. So I think it had somewhere within it a bit of potential to be more than we get. So you know, and I've mentioned this before, and I am thinking of doing it, a sort of a composite playlist of various different base modes, looking at the different base modes and what works and what doesn't, and putting together maybe my own core checklist of what constitutes for me an appropriate base mode for those transformers that do provide base modes. Some are solely in existence to provide base modes. Certainly some Titans are that way inclined, but then there are some others who have base modes built in, and you know, I just wonder whether it's worth us taking a little look at the base modes and deciding which ones win and which ones well, fail dismally. So I might develop some base mode assessment criteria. So watch this space. Anyway, I'm just going to take that non-base mode and put it there for a second, and we bring in Saber. Now this is where I get a bit wanting to sort of ask the questions that I was asking earlier. So this is Saber, who forms the chest element really, when he combines with the base mode, which also converts to the V-Star jet, or the V-Jet. I suppose the question I'm asking is, this is the Supreme Commander of the Autobots. He just has combination options. But that's great. I mean, the fact that he's not the most gigantic of figures doesn't really bother me at all. But my question, I suppose, is that what does that make the Brain Master? Now, I'm coming in quite sort of tight here because, again, the Brain Master is dinky. Absolutely dinky. So for comparison, we saw how big the minibots are. This is Holi next to the Brain of Courage. So, you know, the Brain of Courage is a dinky tiny guy, who I'm not at the moment going to take out. I'll take him out when I convert Saber into his jet mode, so he can become the pilot. And I'll do jet mode Saber and the V-Jet thing there. But otherwise, I think it's a really nice figure. I just need to understand how the Brain Master works in relation to who is in charge of this. You know, is the Brain... In my head, the Brain Master isn't Saber, because that's the same way that the other Power Masters, Headmasters, Target Masters work. They were accompanying elements. But I'm just trying to understand the mythology of this one. So anyone who's in a position to share that with me, please do. But yeah, so here we have Saber being all magnificent. But yeah, I'd really appreciate your insight and intelligence around this. But again, this is a very nice figure. Nothing, again, another little additional. Well, it's not an additional figure. It's a key figure in the set. But you know, it is another figure. So I think, again, in terms of bang for your buck, I'm really, really glad that I committed to this, because I think I could have made a massive error of judgment and let it go. We do start to see some hollow elements here as part, but again, we are on a much smaller figure, so I can understand how that could happen. But again, from a size point of view, it's kind of hard to get him to scale with the base mode, you know? There's not really any way he can engage with it, because as a platform, he doesn't really fit in the platform in his robot mode. So yeah, it's a little unfortunate. I mean, you know, it's a great figure, and I think if the base mode offered us a bit more play feature, you know, opportunity with different levels, for example. I think that's important in the base mode, different levels. That's going on the list. Then maybe there'd be some interactivity and engagement opportunities, but there isn't really. So I'm going to call a halt here, not on a downer, because again, I still think the look of it generally is quite good. I mean, it's a nice sort of aesthetic. It's a bit ditzy what it's doing at the moment, but I know it moves into something else. So we've looked at the sort of the rescue bots, Holi and Fire. We've seen Saber now in his robot mode. We've seen the Brain of Courage in situ, and we've seen the base mode So in the next video, I'll look at the jet modes of both of these and then their combined form. Then we'll look at Leo, Victory Leo, and then we'll move on to the final combined form. So there is a plan. But yeah, by all means, do let me know down in the comments down below how this works. How does the Brainmaster thing work? In ways I'll understand it. Anyway, thanks very much for your time today. Thanks for, I know it's been a bit of a long video. This is why I'm doing this over a series of videos rather than trying to condense it all down, because I want to explore it, look at it, see it, and really learn as I go through it about the figure and more of the mythology. So I'm looking forward to your input on that. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. I've been the Triple TC, that's the Time Travelling Toy Collector. You've been a wonderful audience, and this has been my first Haslab. The Victory Saber set, in particular looking at Holi, Fire and Saber and his battle base. And I look very much forward to seeing you in the next in a future video, and indeed possibly elsewhere on the channel in a past video as well. It just remains for me to say that things of beauty really are toys forever. Take care. Bye-bye for now.